ODU football, 28-point first half lead. ODU basketball, hold my beer. Locked on Sunbelt.
You are Locked on Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked on Sunbelt, your team every day. Hopefully everybody had a happy and safe New Year. We're doing this a little bit before our New Year's festivities here in Lafayette. You may hear some fireworks in the background. Today's episode of Locked on Sunbelt brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, a little football. We'll do it at the end. A little bit of news came out on Sunday night. Ismail Madhi from Texas State coming back. That's one down. We'll get into that. JMU remains undefeated, but maybe more importantly, Georgia Southern got off the schneid as they're headed out on a 4-game road trip in a ball game that wasn't all that close over Southern Miss. But the big news on Saturday was South Alabama out of nowhere rallying to beat ODU. And it is duly noted that Jeff Jones is not there and recuperating from a heart attack. But they were good enough to build a 22-point lead, 14 minutes left in the ballgame. Like, this is not something that South Alabama, came out guns a-blazing to begin the second half. No. They fell further behind. And it was 47-25 at the 14-minute mark. By the time they got it to the TV timeout at 11:30, the 22-point lead was down to 12. And I think it was under 10 when they came back, and they got it down to a 10-point ball, under 10 points with 10 minutes left to go in the game. South Alabama goes on a 29-6 run to take the lead 56-55. They ended up on I guess that's 29-8 run technically. They also, ODU ends up scoring 47 points in the first 26 minutes of the game. They ended up scoring 12 in the last 14 minutes of the game. How does that happen? That's insane. This was, I'm not even sure. Let's see what happened. Let's see the stats here, because I actually went out at halftime and then I'm not even sure I saw the beginning of the second half and just presumed that they were going to lose. And then I was out and boom sauce, South Alabama comes back. They did hit 9 3-pointers. Marshall Kearing had a nice ball game off the bench. Couple 3-pointers, 6 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. My goodness. Only 1 turnover. But it wasn't so much. South Alabama scored 39 points. After scoring only 22, which is not great, they scored 39 points in the second half. That's not scoring some ungodly amount. That's what you probably should score in college basketball these days. That's average. But ODU they just fell apart. They just completely fell apart. They're throwing behind the back passes in the middle of South Alabama's 16-0 run. In the middle of a 16-0 run where you haven't scored in about 5 minutes, we're going to get all fancy on a fast break nonetheless. And of course, it goes out of bounds. Not great, Bob. ODU, they were 4-8 coming into the ball game, and it doesn't really matter in the Sun Belt for the most part. What you do in the non-conference, as long as you do well in the conference and get a good seed for the tournament. And now ODU starts 0-1 in a game that they should have won. South Alabama actually is a surprising 8-5. Remember that bad loss against Division II Mobile and they're 1-0 in the conference, and they have a big game coming up. I think App State is heading their way. Yeah, they have some big ball games here. They get App State and Georgia State this weekend. Then they go on the road to James Madison. So they're playing probably the top two teams in the conference right now, basically in a couple of weeks, or in a week span, as it turns out. App State at home, and then heading to James Madison. So tough loss for ODU, right? It's tough to top the blown 28-0 lead in the first half by the football team. Although that is, and I know some calls went against ODU in the ball game. That doesn't change that they didn't score on offense, but nonetheless. But we've seen comebacks before, right? I mean, 28-3 was in the third quarter. No. So 28-0 in the first half, a lot can be made out of that, but that's not ridiculous, not great. But we've seen something along those lines before. 22-point lead in the second half. 6 minutes into the second half. That really shouldn't happen, right? I mean, I think we, kind of made a thing when, Bob Marlin and the Cajuns had like a 12, 13-point lead and didn't call a timeout until the lead was gone, until they trailed. How about call a timeout? And I think the coach was waiting for, the TV timeout to get closer. But not when you're up by 22 and half of it's gone before you blink. You got to call it. Like, they went on a quick 8-0 run. Call timeout. Let's use the 30-second timeout right there. Settle down, guys. We still got a big lead. Let's move the ball. Let's play defense and, make sure they're not falling apart. No, didn't happen. I don't think a timeout was called between the 14-minute mark with the 22-point lead and the 11.5-minute mark down to a 10-point lead. Not great. Not great at all. So South Alabama with a big win. We'll see if that can propel them. You get that win, and then you host App State, and you get that win. All of a sudden, you're 2-0. You get Georgia State coming in. We'll talk about that here in a minute. We'll go over down the rest of the Sun Belt here in the second segment. It happened on Saturday, but they had a nice win on Saturday against Arkansas State. But you take on Georgia State, all of a sudden maybe you can 3-0. Now that's looking way ahead. I understand that, but it is what it is. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll go over what else happened in the Sun Belt. JMU stays undefeated. Georgia Southern gets that big first victory under Charlie Henry, and they played very well. It wasn't like Southern Miss played poorly, or it wasn't like they played well. It wasn't like they squeaked by, I guess is what I want to say. Southern Miss did play poorly, but that was because of Georgia Southern. All right, let's tell you a little bit about FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I am still a little bit upset about not taking McNeese because I forgot and I was traveling. Slipped my mind. Could have easily taken McNeese with the line, point spread, and the money line, and then like double down on Georgia, and that would have been it. I would have been done. That would have been it. I know that's easier said than done now, but the McNeese Michigan one was more surprising than the Georgia one. But that could have been all she wrote for Schultz, and I would have been very happy at that point in time to cash out. Been very happy. The college basketball has not necessarily been very kind to me. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's go over more of what happened in the Sunbelt on a Saturday. JMU stays undefeated. They beat Texas State 82-65. TJ Bickerstaff, 21 points and 10 rebounds as JMU is ranked 20th in the nation. They're coming to the Cajun Dome on Thursday. I'm very interested to see if, there's any chance that we could have a good crowd in the Cajun Dome on Thursday, right? It's not early in the week where people are still recuperating from New Year's. Like if this is a Tuesday or Thursday or Wednesday ball game, I'd get it. But Thursday night's already like the next weekend. Let's see if they step up. And I'm not even talking 9,000 to 10,000. I'm talking like 4,000 to 5,000. Let's see if there's a big crowd for the Cajuns and JMU on Thursday. It's not going to help that the Cajuns just did not play very well against Marshall, losing 75 to 61. Cajuns just have to shoot. They live and die by the three. I would tell you, Marshall, this game wasn't that close. Right? It never got that close. It was even in the second half, I guess, 36-all. But, they made 2 more three-pointers. They made 4 more field goals, with 2 of those being three-pointers. And they made 4 more free throws. They didn't exactly dominate, but the Cajuns never really threatened in this ball game. And the Cajuns got to shoot it better. The Cajuns have to shoot better than 5 from 22 from 3. That's the whole story. They live and die by the 3. And when they don't shoot it well, they're not going to win. And in a lot of cases, they're not even going to compete. However, they are a much better team at home than they are on the road. Let's see what happens if they get a little crowd and they can make James Madison play a close ball game. Although James Madison has played already some close ball games this year, much earlier in the season. That may not fluster them at all. Both those games were on the road, in fact. So let's see what happens if the Cajuns can shoot it well against JMU and make it a ball game. They played a heck of a ball game against McNeese. Lost, but heck of a ball game. Much better than Michigan did, and Michigan was at home. So the ability is there, but they do have to hit, I'd say 10 threes to really compete on a nightly basis for the most part. All right, elsewhere in the Sun Belt, let's see. We've gone over South Alabama and ODU. We went over JMU and Texas State, and we went over Marshall taking down the Cajuns. Georgia Southern with their first win, 88-67 over Southern Miss. And this game was not all that close. The closest it was really at half, 46-38. Georgia Southern played extremely well in this ball game. They hit 15 threes, and that really kept Southern Miss from making a run. It was, got into the 20s, and, Southern Miss would get it down to like 16 quickly, but then Georgia Southern would hit another 3. So congratulations to Georgia Southern. Again, as ugly as the 0-12 is, the 1-0 actually means a lot more. All right. The 1-0 means a whole lot more. Tyron Moore had the big ball game, 27 points, 7 of 10 from 3, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, Zippo on the turnover. So good job by Moore for Georgia Southern. And again, Austin Crowley had 15 points. Curbelo had 18 for Southern Miss, but that was really it. They did give Ivory had 10 points, but they did not play very well. They shot less than 40% overall, only about 30% from 3. They even shot, 58% from the free throw line. If they make more free throws, well, not really. They lost by 21 points. So free throws would have made it closer, but it wouldn't have mattered. Not like, no, it would not have mattered. So congratulations to Georgia Southern on their first win of the season. The only other road, we have a couple other ball games. Before South Alabama and their furious comeback, I thought Troy was the only team to win on the road, because winning on the road in college basketball is hard. I don't care if you've going up against a winless team or not. Winning on the road is hard. But Troy basically made it easy, pulled away against Coastal Carolina. Christian Eugene had 20 points. Troy beats Coastal 72-65. And in what was a really fun game to watch, let's see, I think that was the first game. I went from game to game to game. I think I was watching Georgia State and Arkansas State, and then Southern Miss and Georgia Southern, then the Cajuns and Marshall, and then before we went out, South Alabama and Old Dominion for a bit. But that's a nice win for Georgia State. The end, it took forever. Like the 3:46 I was watching felt like it took 30 minutes. 91-90 win for Georgia State over Arkansas State, I should say. Caleb Fields, unfortunately, misses a free throw that would have tied it at the end and probably sent it in to overtime. But that's a nice win for Georgia State. I forgot Georgia State, not quite 0-12 last year, but boy, they struggled last season. They finished up the out-of-conference schedule 7-5. They went 3-15 in the conference. They lost their final 8 ball games. And yeah, it was bad. It was bad. And so they seem to be a little bit better this year. We'll see. Again, going on the road is not easy. They are hitting the road. Southern Miss is certainly going to want to bounce back over their loss to Georgia Southern. And then they get South Alabama on a Saturday. I think we got them all. See, ODU, South Alabama, James Madison, Texas State, App State. Oh, App State, forgot this. App State with a relatively easy win over Monroe, 67-55. Gregory has 17 points. Actually, my friend who I stayed with in South Florida, in Stuart, went to lovely Boone, North Carolina for the holidays. And I said, App State's going to be at home. And we went to the game. And let's see who he was impressed with. Let me see. He gave me, doesn't know their names, not necessarily that I do either. But he actually picked out a guy from Pompano Beach. Let me see here. No. Abson. That's it. Justin Abson. He's like, number 21's good. 6'9", 235 pounds. And he just happens to be from South Florida. So a good job by my buddy. Jason took his 2 kids, and they had a good time. And App State comes away with a win. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, news from the Bobcats. I wouldn't say a New Year's miracle, but certainly good news heading into 2024. We will do that when we come back right after this. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Best month we've had so far. More than 250 subscribers in December. Thank you so much. Please continue to tell your friends and family about the Locked On Sunbelt podcast. We're just getting into basketball. Baseball and softball are not that far off. Really looking forward to getting it in full swing this year and appreciate all of the support. Going to be very close to 1,100 subscribers here and maybe 1,200 before baseball season. That would be amazing. So appreciate it. Don't forget the audio podcast. You can find them wherever you get your audio podcast. Just search Locked On Sunbelt. Apple Podcast and Spotify seem to be the favorites of the people who listen audio-wise. So again, please subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. People don't think they would get the comments or someone's going to reply to the comments. That's me. It's just me. I'm the one replying. I try not to be sarcastic, but that's a default thing. So if you don't appreciate the sarcasm, I apologize in advance. So it is me with the comments. When you comment, I'm replying. So try to be straightforward and thank people for commenting. Although there tends to be a little snark in there once in a while. All right. All right. Thanks so much to subscribing to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Happy New Year. It's a little toasty in here with my sport jacket on. All right, so the big news on Sunday night was that Texas State running back Ismail Madhi sent out a video tweet thanking everybody for all his success at Texas State. And then at the end, he says, let's run it back. So Texas State, along with Arkansas State and the Cajuns, were kind of my way too early, Western Division, contenders because of the potential of the quarterbacks. Jalen Raynor coming back. And we always think these guys are going to get a little bit better. You never know. There's no reason to believe that outside of experience. And Ben Woldrer is expected to be the Cajuns quarterback. We'll see if Zion Chris is coming back. He's visiting all kinds of schools. We'll see if the Cajuns NIL crew can put something together to get Zion back. But with Madhi back in the fold, we'll see what TJ Finley does. And that's where, Texas State can go from potential contender to they're going to be picked to win the division. If TJ Finley comes back, Texas State is your odds-on favorite. Whether they win or not is a different story. But I would tend to believe, even if Zion Chris comes back, outside Texas State doesn't beat the Cajuns, next year they get him in San Marcos. So that would be different. They did blow the game they had this year against the Cajuns in Lafayette. But that is big news for the Bobcats. It's all been roses so far over the last couple of weeks, right? They did a good job recruiting. GJ Kinney's coming back. They win their first bowl game. Madhi's coming back. Let's see if they can get TJ Finley to come back. Again, it's going to take some money. I don't know what his pro prospects are. With all due respect, I really don't. I'm not sure he's a pro quarterback. Maybe he can go up to Canada. But again, if he's looking to get a job, he needs to support a family. I think he's got a wife and a kid. But if you can get a little bit of money in respect, that's, comparable sake and, in comparison sake, right? We're not talking Arch Manning money. That'd be nice, but it's not going to be. But if you can get a high 5, low 6-figure salary and continue to go to school, and maybe here's the thing. If TJ Finley decides he wants to live in San Marcos, if he decides this is where I'm going to stay, maybe you get a job with the athletic program. Someone else gives you a job, whatever you majored in college. Again, every time I've seen TJ Finley speak, he comes off, and this is, you never know what to expect from a freshman, but he was thrust into play at LSU, thrust into play at Auburn. He's been nothing but humble, and just comes off as a good kid, a big one, but a good kid. And so if he decides, maybe I stick around here, and then he sticks around for 2 years, which surprisingly he has 2 years of eligibility, cashes in on some NIL deals, leads Texas State to whatever they can become, keeps GJ Kinney around there for 3 years compared to maybe just 1, and either goes into the athletic department as an ambassador or whatever he wants to go into, or maybe finds a job there in San Marcos. Someone hires him, and he has a dual role with the football program and the athletic department. That very easily could be the case, right? And so, you can't, if someone can tell him, this is what we have here for you, and certainly let him try to go pro, right? He say he comes back 1 year and he turns into a pro prospect, see what he can do professionally, football wise. Go at it, absolutely. But when you come back, if you come back, you got a home here. And so that's what I would be looking for. TJ Finley, that could be very the case for Ismail Madhi, right? You just settle down, and that's a pretty good place to be living. And you could do a lot worse than that. That's the other thing. And then people are going to take care of you when you're part of the school and the program that brought it to new heights. So it's a good opportunity if he wants to stick around there. Again, I don't think it takes that much money. Some of these kids are making $250,000, $500,000. Maybe he can get that much at an SEC program. Vanderbilt, I don't know. But if he can get 75 to 100 grand in San Marcos, maybe he sticks around. That's a lot of money to a lot of people. All right. I know it's not a lot of money to pro athletes, and some of these college kids are getting high 6 figures and 7-figure checks. But again, he could do worse than San Marcos. That's a pretty good place to be hanging out for a while. And if he decides he wants to stick around, that's a good spot to do it. All right. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning in. First episode of 2024. All right. We'll see if we survive the night. Didn't realize how hot the lights are and the jacket is. It's a little toasty. I don't mind saying. All right. Little perspiration on the forehead. Again, thanks for all the support. We're continuing to grow. Almost 1,100 subscribers. It'll be 2,000, before we know it. And then we're off to the races. So again, thank you so much for your support. Thanks for a tremendous 2023. Here's to you and yours in 2024. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. And thank you for watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.